What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. Now that we're in 2018, it's time to start getting ready for the upcoming Year of the Dog event. And the most important thing to know is when it's gonna start. However, unlike past Overwatch events for which I've made start date predictions videos, this event in particular is going to be much more difficult to estimate. But I believe that I've been able to narrow it down to being either one of two dates in particular. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, for those of you who are short on time and just want the simple answer, the two dates which I estimate to be the most likely are Tuesday, January 30th and Tuesday, February 13th. If that's all you wanted to know, then you are free to leave, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button on the way out. However, if you're interested in hearing about how I came up with these dates, and which of the two I personally think is more likely, then be sure to stick around. So you may be asking, why are there two possible dates? And furthermore, why are they 2 whole weeks apart from each other? Well, that entirely has to do with the real-world Lunar New Year holiday, which is based off of, you guessed it, the lunar calendar. And without getting too in-depth with how it all works, the inconsistency between the lunar calendar and the normally used solar calendar means that there is actually a pretty wide window of time where the Lunar New Year can happen in any given year. In 2017, it was on the 28th of January, and in 2018, it's on the 16th of February. Now, the first of my two estimated start dates, January 30th, is based off of the fact that the event started on January 24th last year. Assuming that Blizzard wants to have annual events happen as close to the same time every year as possible, it would make sense for it to start on the 30th, since the Lunar New Year itself will still actually fit within its 3-week runtime, without needing to delay it any more than just a week from when it was last year. However, the second estimated date, February 13th, is based off of the fact that in the real world, the Chinese festivities for the Lunar New Year don't actually start until Lunar New Year's Eve, and then typically run for 15 days after the New Year starts. Therefore, if the Overwatch event starts on the 13th, then its 3-week runtime will encompass not only New Year's Eve and day, but also the entire 15 days of festivities that are celebrated with it. The event did this last year when it started on the 24th, meaning that in an effort to more closely follow the real-world traditions, Blizzard could delay the event heavily this year in order for it to better sync up with how people are actually celebrating. Now, I should mention that I'm by no means an East Asian culture expert. This is just what I've learned through researching the holiday, so if I'm somehow getting something wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments section below. Anyways, now that I've explained why January 30th and February 13th are the dates to look at, which one do I think is more likely? Without a doubt, I personally think that the 2018 Year of the Dog event will start on February 13th. The reason being, Blizzard cares a lot about being culturally accurate. They want their holiday-themed in-game events to accurately reflect the real-world holidays and seasons on which they're based. For example, both Winter Wonderland events we've gotten so far have been timed to include Christmas, New Year's, and Hanukkah, not just because it's when people are most open to spending money, but because it's when people in the Western world and any other relevant nations are actually celebrating these holidays. So for those of you who have been excitedly looking forward to 2018's Year of the Dog event, I'm sorry to tell you that it's most likely going to be happening a bit later than you might have expected. There is still a slight chance that it'll start on the 30th of January, however, I would not recommend getting your hopes up for that. And regardless of which day it starts, we can also expect to get some kind of teaser for the event via Twitter 1 week prior to its launch. So be sure to keep an eye out for that too, because it could even tease some of the new skins. I will also mention real quickly that if the event does start on February 13th, that means that it wouldn't end until the 6th of March, which is right around the time that we would be expecting the next Overwatch hero, being Hero 27, to either start getting teased or perhaps even already have been revealed. Placing Year of the Dog and Hero 27 this close to each other would not be a good idea for Blizzard from a business standpoint, as it would create an overlap of content hype. Again, I don't want to bother getting too technical with it, but simply put, it's something that they would want to avoid. Interestingly, however, this may actually serve as further evidence to suggest that Hero 27's release and/or reveal will be delayed. This is an idea I talked about in my previous video, which I encourage you to check out through the card on screen if you haven't seen it already. Anyways, getting back to Year of the Dog, I have one final thing I wanted to address, which is the new event skins. Now, given that it took a bit longer than usual to explain my event start date estimation, I've decided to try something new and save my predictions for skins, the new game mode, and other new cosmetics for a second video. I apologize for having to make you wait, but that does give me the opportunity to ask all of you about your ideas. So for this video, I encourage each and every one of you to leave a comment below with your own ideas for Year of the Dog skins, game modes, and other cosmetic items. Given that you've already been flooding the comments of my past videos with these, I have no doubt that there will be a ton of great suggestions from all of you. And of course, if there are any really popular or really interesting ideas, then I'll be sure to include them in my upcoming video. In order to give people time to comment their ideas, I'm currently planning to release this follow-up video next Monday, January 8th, so be sure to stay tuned to my channel for that. And that'll do it for today. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to vote in today's poll card for which of the two dates you think will be more likely. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel and keep up with all my future Year of the Dog and otherwise Overwatch related content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.